In episode 9, Jen sits down with Moranis, and as he's eating those scones, she tells him a story that she had an affair with Steve Wood. This covers her tracks a little bit, that if they find DNA on Steve and it's hers, it would explain a lot. She says that she didn't say this before because she didn't want Judy finding out. Moranis seems to buy it all, and he also really appreciates the scones. But when Jen leaves the room, Moranis is still very much alive. Jen leaves the hotel room, gets in her car, and as she's leaving, she sees these two guys in suits that smile at her, and they seem to be heading to Moranis' hotel room. She doesn't really think anything of it. She thinks that they might be just FBI, and she just goes about her business. When she gets home, she meets with Judy, and she doesn't say a word about meeting with Moranis, but she doesn't really have a chance to. Judy tells her that she got the scans, and unfortunately, she's terminal. Jen starts talking about how there got to be another option, but Judy stops her and says, no. We always knew that the odds of the chemo working were always pretty low. It's okay. Really, I've accepted it. But Jen has not. She's not ready to give up on her friend just giving up and dying. She's now hell-bent on getting her friend into this clinical trial. Judy doesn't really have any interest in doing it, though. She already went through chemo, and that was hard. Clinical trial is going to be even harder. And if she's going to die, she doesn't want to spend the remaining time she has miserable sick. She wants to spend it happy. Jen, though, still is not ready to give up on her friend dying. Jen then tells Judy about what Karen showed her the previous night. Moranis scooping up her DNA. She also tells Judy not to worry about it because stress isn't good for the cancer. And Judy says, well, stress isn't good for the baby either. But they were both unaware that Charlie and Henry were walking in the room, and they heard that line. And it takes all of about 5 seconds for Charlie to realize that his mom is knocked up. After the initial shock of her children learning that she's 4 or 5 months pregnant, she goes to work, calling up the hospital and trying to get Judy into this clinical trial, but it's not working. And her bedside manner is worse than most doctors. She then gets a phone call from prison, and it's Ben. They make a little chit-chat about how he's holding up, but at no point does she tell him about the baby. As Jen is getting caught back up with Ben, Judy goes to visit her mother, who is actually out of prison, believe it or not. She wants to be able to say goodbye to her mother, but she also doesn't want to tell her mother that she has cancer. After a bit of small talk back and forth, she gives her mother an envelope with a bunch of cash in it and tells her that she's going away for a little bit. When her mom asks her, where are you going, she tells her, Sonoma. I'm helping a friend open up a restaurant. Judy then heads home and she starts rummaging through the guest house. Now, normally the guest house is where she is staying, but in this situation, she's taking over Charlie's room and Charlie's taking over the guest house. She starts looking through the safe and looking for the gun, and Charlie catches her. He thinks that she's just rummaging through his stuff, and he gets upset and even says, doesn't anyone in this family have any boundaries? But all that Judy heard was anyone in this family. And she likes the fact that Charlie thinks that she is a part of the family. He sits down and confides in her that he can't quite figure out his mom. She hated his dad, but she likes Ben. Judy tries to explain to Charlie that Jen is the kind of mother that he actually wants, and she would know firsthand having a pretty bad mom herself. At the end of this conversation, Judy gives him a hug and says, I love you. And Charlie says, I love you too. And that means so much to Judy. As Judy and Charlie are having a little bit of a heart-to-heart, Jen is dropping off the 1,000 paper cranes that Judy made for the Holy Harmony show. The mother that Jen drops it off to can't believe that Jen made it, and Jen admits, yeah, I didn't make it. My friend did when she was going through chemo. Well, it turns out that this mom is a doctor, and she knows people over at the hospital that's doing that clinical trial. She's going to make some phone calls and see if she can get Judy in. She's really excited about the possibility of getting Judy in. She calls Judy up when she gets home, but Judy doesn't answer. There's then a knock at the door, and Jen just figures that it's Judy, but it's not. It's Judy's mom. When Judy's mom opened up the package that Judy gave her and she saw all that money, she thought that something was up, that Judy was once again into some shady stuff, so she came looking for her. Judy's not there, so she sits down and she starts ripping Judy to Jen. Finally, Jen gets sick of it and tells Judy's mom, your daughter has cancer. Judy's mom takes a little bit to process this, asks Jen if she's going to be okay, but by Jen's face, she knows the answer's probably not. Now, Jen was busy picking up Henry, but when Henry walks in the door, he says, yeah, Judy's not with me. She had a bag packed and she just dropped me off and left. Jen immediately calls Judy's phone, but Judy left it behind. She also left a beautiful painting that she made. But Judy didn't go down to Mexico. She went to turn herself in. She tells Nick that it was her who was the one who killed Steve Wood. She figures that with terminal cancer, what does it even matter? she'll take the hit. It'll save Jen and her family. And it is one hell of a story, but Nick has to believe it because she just confessed to murder. Nick asks her, why didn't you just go to the FBI and try to strike a plea? And Judy tells him, I felt like it'd be better if I just told a friend. The good news is Judy does get one phone call, and she uses it to call up Jen. But when Jen gets to the precinct, she's pissed off. She can't believe that Judy did this. After all, they're in this thing together. She starts trying to convince Judy to go back on the word, but Judy says, no, I'm not going to do it. And it gets Jen even more upset. This sparks a pretty heated argument between the two. It goes from screaming to crying to pleading. And when Jen walks out, she's not willing to give up. She goes and talks to Nick, begging him to just arrest her in 3 weeks. Let her go through this clinical trial. And even though Nick likes Judy, he can't just let her go. But Jen is really convincing. And at the end of their conversation, Judy is able to go home, but with an ankle monitor. In 3 weeks after the clinical trial, she'll be arrested for murder. When they get back to Jen's house, Judy's mom is still there, and Judy's pretty surprised to see her. Judy's mom never tells Judy that she knows about the cancer. She words it as saying, I just wanted to give you a proper goodbye before you head off to Sonoma. Back at the police precinct, though, Nick comes clean to Perez, telling her what he did with Judy and explaining that he's probably going to have to resign, but if that makes him a bad person, then so be it. Perez, though, isn't asking for his resignation. But even with her not demanding it, he knows that his career is over if Moranis ever finds out. And that's when Perez says Moranis is never going to find out. Because Perez went to the motel that day, and what she found was a very dead Moranis and a ransacked room. They don't have any leads on who killed Moranis, how he died, who went through the room, but they no longer have to worry about him. And as for the FBI folder, Perez took that with her and decided to burn it. The next day, Judy and Jen should be heading to that clinical trial, but they don't. There's no plans on going to the clinical trial. They're going to have that vacation in Mexico, and they head over the border. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.